It was the harshest winter England had seen in 30 years. Snow blanketed the countryside of Derbyshire, transforming the rolling hills into a pristine white landscape that might have been beautiful were it not so deadly. In a modest stone cottage on the edge of Thornfield village, Miss Olivia Hastings stoked the fire and peered anxiously through frost-laced windows at the darkening sky. "Another storm coming," she murmured, pulling her woolen shawl tighter around her shoulders. Behind her, her elderly father coughed weakly from his bed near the hearth. Once a respected physician in the village, Dr. Hastings had fallen ill the previous spring, leaving Olivia to manage their diminishing finances and his care simultaneously. "You should be in a grand house, child," he rasped. "Not trapped here nursing an old man." Olivia turned with a gentle smile. "Nonsense, father. There is nowhere I'd rather be." She didn't mention the 3 proposals of marriage she had declined over the years, all to ensure her father wouldn't be left alone. At 26, society had nearly relegated her to spinsterhood, a fact that troubled her father far more than herself. The wind howled suddenly, rattling the shutters with such violence that Olivia startled. Then came another sound, the unmistakable whinny of a horse in distress. Crossing quickly to the window, she wiped away the frost with her sleeve. Through the swirling snow, she could just make out a dark shape on the road, a horse, riderless, pacing nervously. Beside it, a crumpled form lay motionless in the snow. "Oh heavens!" Olivia gasped, already reaching for her heaviest cloak. "Father, someone has fallen on the road." Dr. Hastings attempted to rise, then fell back against his pillows. "Go quickly, Olivia. Bring them here if you can." The bitter cold stole Olivia's breath as she fought through knee-deep snow. The horse, a magnificent black stallion with expensive tack, reared nervously as she approached. "Easy," she soothed, catching its reins before kneeling beside the fallen rider. A man lay face down in the snow, blood staining the whiteness around him. With difficulty, she turned him onto his back, revealing a face of striking handsomeness despite being marred by a gash across the temple. His clothes, what she could see beneath his snow-covered greatcoat, were of the finest quality. "Sir? Can you hear me?" Olivia patted his cheek, relieved when he groaned faintly. Alive, then, but barely. It took all her strength to half-drag, half-carry the unconscious stranger back to the cottage, the horse following obediently behind. By the time she managed to get him through the door, her arms trembled from exertion. "Who is he?" her father asked weakly, struggling to see from his bed. "I don't know," Olivia replied, stripping off the man's wet coat and boots. "A gentleman, certainly, from his clothes and horse. He must have been traveling to one of the great houses and gotten caught in the storm." For 3 days, the stranger remained unconscious, burning with fever. Olivia tended him constantly, applying her father's medical knowledge as best she could. She cleaned and stitched the head wound, bathed his fevered brow, and forced broth between his lips when possible. "His arm appears broken," she told her father on the 2nd day. "I've splintered it as you instructed." Dr. Hastings nodded approvingly. "You would have made a fine physician yourself, had you been born a man." On the 3rd night, as Olivia dozed in a chair beside the stranger's makeshift bed, she was startled awake by a deep voice. "Where am I?" She leaned forward to find the man's eyes open, piercing blue eyes that regarded her with confusion and intensity. "You're safe, sir," she assured him. "You fell from your horse during the snowstorm. I found you on the road." He attempted to sit up but fell back with a groan. "My head feels as though it's been cleaved in 2. You suffered a severe blow. Please lie still." She offered him water, which he accepted gratefully. "My name is—" he began, then stopped, his brow furrowing deeply. After a long moment, he looked at her with naked alarm. "I don't know. I cannot remember my name." Olivia exchanged a worried glance with her father. "The blow to your head was severe. Dr. Hastings, my father, says memory loss can accompany such injuries. It may return in time. And if it doesn't?" The stranger's voice was tight with controlled panic. "Then we shall have to discover who you are another way," she said practically. Your clothes are of the finest quality. Your signet ring bears a crest, though I confess I don't recognize it. Someone must be searching for you. Unless I was running from something, he murmured, then grimaced as pain clearly lanced through his head. Rest now, Olivia urged. We can solve this mystery tomorrow. The stranger studied her face for a long moment. You saved my life. Anyone would have done the same. No, he said with sudden conviction. They would not. The following morning, Olivia entered the small parlor where the stranger now sat by the fire, his splintered arm resting awkwardly across his lap. Despite his injuries and plain borrowed clothes, left by a former patient of her father's, he cut an imposing figure. Something in his bearing spoke of authority, of a man accustomed to command. I still cannot recall my name, he admitted before she could ask. But fragments are returning. I know I was traveling north. I believe I have property in this region. That narrows our search considerably, Olivia said brightly, setting down a tray of simple breakfast. There are only a few great estates within 20 miles. He accepted the tea she offered, their fingers brushing momentarily. A strange tension filled the small space between them, an awareness that seemed to surprise them both. Your father tells me you've been caring for me night and day, he said, breaking the silence. I am deeply in your debt, Miss Hastings. Olivia, please. And there is no debt. Though I confess I've been calling you a Mr. Zedo in my thoughts, since we needed some name for you. A smile transformed his serious face. Why the Z? The last letter of the alphabet, for a man whose identity remains the final puzzle. He laughed then, a rich sound that seemed to fill the modest room. Mr. Z it is, until my true name returns. Days passed, and the snow showed no signs of melting. The roads remained impassable. In that enforced intimacy, Olivia found herself drawn to the mysterious Mr. Z in ways that both thrilled and alarmed her. He was unlike any man she had known, educated, commanding, yet capable of genuine warmth when they spoke in the evenings by the fire. He began helping her with household tasks as his strength returned, chopping wood one-handed and insisting on reading to Dr. Hastings when the old man's eyes tired too quickly. You needn't labor so, Olivia protested one evening, finding him attempting to repair a leaking roof beam. You're still recovering. I am not accustomed to idleness, he replied. Then, more softly, nor to being cared for as you have cared for me. Something in his tone made her heart quicken. Have you no family, do you think? No wife waiting for your return? He stilled, his expression troubled. I don't believe so. I feel certain I would remember such a bond, even if details escape me. His eyes met hers. And you? No husband or fiancé? No, she admitted. I've had offers, but none I wish to accept. The men of this county must be fools, he said quietly. Before she could respond, a violent pounding came at the door. Olivia opened it to find a red-faced man in a snow-dusted greatcoat. Beg pardon, Miss Hastings, he said breathlessly. I've been riding to every house in the area. We're searching for His Grace, the Duke of Northcroft. He's been missing these 3 weeks past. Olivia frowned. I'm sorry, but we've seen no Duke here. He might have been injured or disoriented, miss. There's £1,000 reward for information leading to his safe return. Behind her, she heard Mr. Z approach. The messenger's eyes widened, his mouth falling open in shock. Your Grace, he exclaimed, dropping immediately into a bow so deep he nearly toppled forward. Olivia turned to find Mr. Z, her patient, her friend, staring at the messenger in confusion. You know me? He asked sharply. Of course, Your Grace. You're Zachary Northcroft, Duke of Northcroft. The most powerful peer in England, saving the royal family themselves. The colour drained from the Duke's face. I am a Duke. The messenger's confusion was almost comical. Have you been injured, Your Grace? The entire household at Northcroft Castle has been searching frantically since your horse returned without you. As reality crashed around her, Olivia stepped back, suddenly aware of the vast chasm that had just opened between them. She had been harboring and developing feelings for the most powerful duke in England. He suffered a head injury, she explained quietly. His memory has been affected. Within hours, the quiet cottage was transformed into a flurry of activity. The Duke's secretary, Mr. Pembroke, arrived with a physician and several servants. Zachary, for she now knew his name, was examined thoroughly, his splint replaced with a proper cast, his borrowed clothes exchanged for garments of fine wool and linen. Olivia withdrew to the kitchen, feeling strangely bereft. The man she had nursed back to health was vanishing before her eyes, replaced by His Grace, the Duke of Northcroft, a figure of such consequence that even the Queen, it was said, sought his counsel on matters of state. "Miss Hastings." His deep voice startled her from her thoughts. He stood in the doorway, once again the imposing figure she had glimpsed even beneath the humble surroundings. "Mr. Pembroke insists I must return to Northcroft Castle immediately." "Of course, Your Grace." She cursed herself for the tremor in her voice. "You'll receive far better care there." "Olivia." The use of her given name brought her eyes to his. "I would not have survived without your care." She shook her head. "I did only what anyone would." "No," he interrupted firmly. "What you did was extraordinary." "Mr. Pembroke will arrange compensation for." "I want no payment," she said quickly, pride stiffening her spine. "It was my duty as a physician's daughter." Something like hurt flashed across his face. "Nevertheless, I remain in your debt. Should you ever need anything at all, you need only send word to Northcroft Castle." With that, he bowed, a duke bowing to a physician's daughter, and departed. Through the window, Olivia watched as he was helped into an elegant carriage bearing a coat of arms. The same crest, she realized, that adorned his signet ring. As the carriage pulled away, she pressed her hand against the cold glass, whispering a goodbye to the man who had briefly shared their humble home, and taken a piece of her heart with him when he left. 3 months passed. Spring came early that year, as if to apologize for winter's harshness. Dr. Hastings' health improved with the warmer weather, enough that he could sit in the garden while Olivia tended her vegetables and herbs. They never spoke of the Duke, though the local gossips had talked of little else for weeks. According to rumor, His Grace had fully recovered his memory upon returning to Northcroft Castle. He had resumed his duties managing his vast estates and his influential position in the House of Lords. Olivia told herself she was glad. She had done her duty, saved a life, and that was enough. The strange connection she had felt to him had been merely the intimacy of sickroom and recovery, nothing more. Then came the letter. The envelope bore the Northcroft crest in red wax, the paper so fine it seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Inside was an invitation to a grand ball at Northcroft Castle, honoring the Duke's full recovery. "We must accept," her father insisted, more animated than she had seen him in months. "It's the social event of the season. Every person of consequence in 3 counties will attend." "We are hardly people of consequence," Olivia reminded him gently. "And I have nothing suitable to wear to such an event." But Dr. Hastings would not be dissuaded. To her surprise, the following day brought another visitor, a modiste from London, sent by the Duke himself, bearing fabrics and designs for a ball gown. His Grace was most specific, the woman explained as she measured Olivia. "The gown is to be blue, the color of forget-me-nots." Olivia's cheeks burned. During his convalescence, she had mentioned it was her favorite flower. The night of the ball arrived clear and mild. Northcroft Castle loomed against the twilight sky, its ancient stone walls softened by hundreds of lanterns that lined the drive. Carriages stretched into the distance, disgorging elegantly dressed nobles and gentry. Olivia clutched her father's arm as they entered, intensely aware of curious glances. Their names, announced by a liveried footman, caused a ripple of whispers through the assembled guests. "The physician's daughter who saved the Duke," she overheard one woman murmur. "How romantic!" "Hardly," sniffed another. "A common village girl." "I hear he's to announce his engagement to Lady Cecilia Harrington tonight." Olivia's heart sank. Of course the Duke would marry someone of his own class, someone suitable to be a duchess. She had been foolish to imagine their connection had meant anything beyond gratitude. The ballroom was a marvel of crystal and candlelight. An orchestra played as couples swirled across the polished floor. Olivia stood at the edge with her father, feeling increasingly out of place despite her beautiful gown. Then the music stopped. The crowd parted, and there he was. Zachary Northcroft, Duke of Northcroft, strode into the ballroom. In evening dress, he was devastatingly handsome, his dark hair contrasting with piercing blue eyes that swept the room. When those eyes found her, Olivia felt her breath catch. He moved directly toward her, ignoring the murmurs that followed. Before her, he bowed deeply. "Miss Hastings. Dr. Hastings. I am honored you could attend." "Your Grace," they both murmured. "I wonder, Miss Hastings," he said, his voice carrying in the suddenly quiet room, "if you would do me the honor of this dance." She could not refuse without causing a scene. As he led her to the center of the ballroom, she was acutely aware of the hundreds of eyes upon them. "You look beautiful," he said as they began to waltz. "The gown is exactly as I imagined." "Your Grace is too kind," she replied stiffly. "I understand congratulations are in order. Lady Cecilia is said to be the beauty of the season." His brow furrowed. "Lady Cecilia? Ah, I see the gossips have been busy." "No, Miss Hastings, I am not engaged, nor do I intend to become so, to Lady Cecilia, at least." The relief that flooded her was so acute it was almost painful. "I apologize for presuming." "No apology necessary." His hand tightened slightly at her waist. "Memory is a curious thing, Miss Hastings. When I returned here, to all this," his glance encompassed the opulent ballroom, "I remembered my responsibilities, my position. But something was missing." "What?" she asked, despite herself. "Peace," he said simply. "In your cottage, despite my injuries, I found a peace I've never known. With you." The music ended. He led her not back to her father but toward a set of French doors that opened onto a terrace. Outside, the night air was cool and sweet with the scent of spring flowers. "I've thought of you every day," he admitted once they were alone. "Of your kindness, your strength, your intelligence. Of how you treated me as a man, not a title." "You were just a man then," she replied quietly. "I'm still that same man." He stepped closer. "Olivia, I know this is unorthodox. Society will object. My family will be scandalized. But I cannot pretend these months have changed what I feel." Her heart pounded so loudly she was certain he must hear it. "And what do you feel, Your Grace?" "Zachary," he corrected gently. "To you, always Zachary." Then his good hand cupped her cheek, and he was kissing her, a tender, questioning kiss that became something deeper when she responded. "I love you," he said when they parted, his forehead resting against hers. "I think I began to love you the moment I opened my eyes to find you watching over me. Will you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my Duchess?" Olivia drew back, searching his face for any trace of doubt. "The scandal will be considerable," he acknowledged with a smile. "I've never particularly cared for society's opinions. And as it happens, the most powerful duke in England can generally do as he pleases." She laughed then, joy bubbling up irresistibly. "In that case, Your Grace, I accept." Later that night, before the assembled guests, Zachary Northcroft announced his engagement to Miss Olivia Hastings of Thornfield Village. Society was indeed scandalized for approximately a fortnight, until the Queen herself sent a letter of congratulation to the bride-to-be who had saved one of her most valued advisors. Dr. Hastings lived to see his daughter become the Duchess of Northcroft in a ceremony that combined grandeur with the simple touches Olivia insisted upon, including bouquets of forget-me-nots carried by her attendants. And if, in years to come, the Duke and Duchess occasionally disappeared from society to spend time in a certain stone cottage at the edge of Thornfield Village, well, as her Grace was known to say, even the most powerful Duke in England sometimes needed to remember where he had found his heart.